This, Alara said quietly, will be the light they see before the end. Far away, alien fleets gathered, preparing for a war they didn't understand. And above it all, the galaxy turned, unaware that the storm was only beginning. The galaxy was beginning to tremble. Every alien empire told their people the same lie. The humans are gone. The humans are broken. But in the streets, in the markets, and in the farthest mining colonies, a new story spread like wildfire. The story said humans were back. They moved like shadows, struck like lightning, and vanished like smoke. Some whispered that they weren't even human anymore, that decades of slavery had turned them into something stronger, colder, unstoppable. On the frozen world of Vornus, a Draka patrol ship returned from a mission, or at least part of it did. The entire rear half of the ship was gone, sliced clean as if by a blade of light. The surviving crew told a strange story. They had been chasing a small ship faster than anything they'd ever seen. Then, without warning, the attacker stopped, turned, and fired a single shot. The next thing they knew, half their ship was missing, and they were drifting in silence. The Draka High Command dismissed it as an exaggeration, but the soldiers knew the truth. Humans inside the Dawnbringer. Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge. The ship was alive with quiet power, its black armor plates absorbing the light around them. Every system was human-designed, but carried stolen alien cores, drives, and weapons. Before her, a massive holographic display showed the galaxy. Dozens of blinking red lights marked alien strongholds, fuel depots, and supply lines. Cade entered. "The bridge. They're running scared," he said. "Draka fleets are avoiding patrols. The Zerans have shut down 3 of their own stations to keep them from being targeted." "They're learning," Alara said. "Good. That means they'll start making mistakes." On the other side of the galaxy, the Great Galactic Council was in chaos. The Kivari ambassador's tentacles curled with fear. "We've lost control of half our trade routes. This is unacceptable." "It is more than trade routes," said the Macron representative, voice filled with static. "Our main shipyard is in ruins. Our production output has dropped by 38%. We are vulnerable." The Draka general slammed his claws on the table. "We should have wiped them out completely when we had the chance." The Zeran Prime Minister hissed. "Do not speak as if you were innocent. You signed the same treaty to keep them alive as slaves." A cold silence filled the room. Every leader in that chamber had supported Earth's enslavement. Every one of them was responsible, and now they all feared they would be next. The fear was not limited to the rulers. On civilian worlds, alien citizens locked their doors at night. Families refused to travel through certain systems. Some spoke openly. "Maybe we should free the humans before they come for us." Even soldiers who once mocked humanity now avoided speaking their name. To them, human was no longer a joke. It was a warning. Back on the Dawnbringer, a coded signal arrived, a distress call from a small mining world in Shivari territory. The aliens had been using human slaves there for decades. "They're calling for help," Cade said. "One of our cells took over the mines and sent the message." Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Then we answer." The Dawnbringer's engines roared to life. In moments, the massive warship disappeared into hyperspace. When it arrived, the battle was already over. The Kivari garrison lay in ruins, its ships burning in the thin atmosphere. Humans walked free in the streets, wearing stolen alien rifles. A young woman ran up to Alara as she stepped off the ship. "Captain, we thought you were just a rumor." Rumors are useful, Ilara said with a faint smile. But now it's time they see the truth. She looked up at the sky, where the Dawnbringer floated like a black shadow against the stars. The rescue sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Holonews channels replayed the images over and over: the human warship, the destroyed alien garrison, the freed slaves cheering. The Council tried to control the story, calling it a terrorist act. But the truth was stronger in secret. Other enslaved species began to contact the resistance, offering help, information, and shelter. The humans had become a symbol, not just of rebellion, but of victory. One night, as the Dawnbringer hid in the debris field of a shattered moon, Cade found Ilara staring at the galaxy map. "They're afraid now," he said. "They should be," Ilara replied. "But fear is not enough. They must know what it feels like to lose everything." Cade tilted his head. "And how do we do that?" Ilara's gaze hardened. "We take their heart." The heart she spoke of was the central system of the Galactic Council, the homeworlds, of its most powerful members. No one had ever attacked it. No one had even dared to try until now. In the council chamber, an emergency meeting was called. The Mechron representative's voice glitched in panic. Long-range scans show an unidentified fleet moving toward the core worlds. The Draka general growled. "How large?" The answer made the entire chamber go silent. "One ship." The officer replied, "But the energy readings are beyond anything in our database." On the bridge of the Dawnbringer, Ilara watched as the alien heart of power drew closer. Around her, her crew moved with quiet precision. "This is it," Cade said. Ilara's voice was calm, but her eyes burned like fire. 50 years ago, they came for our home. Today, we return the favor. The Dawnbringer accelerated, its dark hull cutting through space like a blade. And in the core worlds, for the first time in centuries, the alien rulers prepared for war, not against each other, but against the very species they thought could never rise again. They had underestimated humanity once. They would never make that mistake again. Asterisk the alien core. Worlds had never seen war. They were the beating heart of the Galactic Council, a cluster of planets wrapped in layers of defense stations, fleets, and weapons that could burn moons to ash. The rulers believed no enemy could ever reach them. But the Dawnbringer was not just any enemy. It was the shadow of 50 years of pain forged into steel. On the bridge of the Dawnbringer, Captain Ilara Voss stood at the central console. The main view screen showed the core system, glowing like a jewel in the darkness. Around it, alien fleets patrolled in tight formation. Cade looked at her. "Once we go in, there's no turning back." Ilara's voice was calm. "There was no turning back the day they put chains on us." She raised her hand. "Bring us in." The ship surged forward, engines screaming with power. The first alien ships spotted them within minutes. A squadron of sleek Xeron cruisers moved in, weapons glowing. "Unidentified vessel." Their commander's voice boomed over comms. "You are entering restricted space. Power down immediately or be destroyed." Ilara gave no reply. Instead, she turned to her weapons officer. "Target the lead ship. Single shot." The Dawnbringer's forward cannon charged. A deep hum filled the bridge, rising in pitch until, boom, a single beam of blinding white energy lanced out. The Zarin cruiser exploded instantly, fragments scattering like sparks. The other alien ships broke formation, panic rippling through their channels from the core worlds. The Galactic Council watched in disbelief. It destroyed a cruiser in one hit. The Kivari ambassador cried. The Drakkar general snarled. Send everything we have, now. Hundreds of alien ships launched from the defense rings. The void lit up with weapons, fire, missiles, plasma bolts, and railgun slugs converging on the Dawnbringer. On the human ship, the impacts rattled the hull, but did not break it. Alien weapons splashed harmlessly against the Dawnbringers. Layered shields, stolen from 3 different species and modified beyond recognition. Return fire, Alara ordered. The Dawnbringer unleashed hell. Its main cannon tore through battleships like paper. Swarms of drone fighters, built in secret asteroid bases, poured from hidden launch bays and weaved through the enemy lines, tearing into their engines and weapons. Within minutes, dozens of alien warships were gone. The rest fell back, retreating toward the inner defense ring. In the council chamber, fear turned to desperation. The Mechron representative's voice crackled. This is unacceptable. We must negotiate. Negotiate. The Drakkar general's voice was venom. With the species we enslaved. They'll never accept a sharp alarm. Cut him off. The main display showed the Dawnbringer breaking through the last defensive line. In its path was the capital planet itself, the seat of power for the entire galaxy. As the planet's surface came into view, Cade spoke quietly. We could end them right now. Ilara's eyes narrowed. Not yet. She opened a wide frequency channel. Every planet, every ship, and every citizen in the core worlds heard her voice. 50 years ago, you came to our world. You burned our cities. You chained our people. You believed we would serve you forever. You were wrong. Today, humanity stands free, and we bring justice for every year you stole from us. The alien fleets launched one final, desperate attack. Hundreds of ships swarmed the Dawnbringer, surrounding it in a sphere of fire, full power to forward shields. Alara ordered. The Dawnbringer's engines flared, and the warship shot straight through the enemy formation, shredding ship after ship. Each explosion lit up the void like a dying star. By the time they emerged, only wreckage remained. On the planet below, alien citizens stared at the sky as massive fireballs streaked through the atmosphere, the burning remains of their own fleet. For the first time in centuries, the core worlds felt powerless. In the council chamber, chaos reigned. The year was 2387, far above a burning, dying star. The great Galactic Council met inside a chamber the size of a small moon. 12 alien empires were represented here, each one proud, powerful, and arrogant. The council's floor was made of polished black stone that reflected the glowing fire of the star outside the giant windows. It was a celebration, not of peace, not of trade, but of 50 years since the fall of Earth. The Zeron Prime Minister, a tall, insect-like creature with glowing red eyes, raised his glass of green liquid. To the day humanity bent the knee, he hissed. Laughter echoed through the hall. The reptilian Drakkar slammed his tail on the floor in approval. The scaled warriors remembered the moment Earth's skies burned. When human cities became smoking ruins, they fought hard. The Drakkar general admitted with a grin, but they were only human. The council roared with amusement. They believed the story of humanity was finished, that Earth's people were broken, scattered, and harmless. To them, humans were tools now, nothing more than slaves in the mines of Titan or the factories of Vega-9. But far away, beyond their perfect windows and safe walls, something was stirring. On the cold surface of Titan, Deep inside a slave mining colony, the air smelled of metal and frozen gas. The mines were endless tunnels of black stone, lit only by flickering lights. Here, humans worked day and night under the watch of alien guards. Their hands were calloused, their faces pale from years without sunlight. One of them, a woman named Alara Voss, stood silently in the shadows. Her hair was cut short, her eyes sharp and unblinking. She had been born here, never knowing the blue skies of Earth, yet she carried a fire in her heart that no alien whip could extinguish. A young boy beside her whispered, "They're celebrating." "Again, aren't they?" Alara nodded. "Yes, but let them celebrate. Soon their music will stop." The boy frowned, confused. How? Her lips curved into the smallest of smiles. "The countdown has begun." That night, across the galaxy, strange things began to happen. On a distant supply station near the Draka border, alarms screamed. A shadow moved through the corridors, fast, silent. Security cameras caught only a blur before they went dark. Minutes later, the station's reactor overloaded, exploding in a burst of white fire. The next day, a Zeran transport ship carrying weapons to the warfront disappeared in hyperspace. No signal, no trace. Only a piece of its hull was later found, drifting in the void, and on that broken metal plate, burned into the surface, were two simple letters in the ancient Earth alphabet. HR, human resistance. Back in the council chamber, the alien leaders were restless. "This is sabotage," growled the Draka general. "Some rival empire is testing us." The Zaran prime minister shook his head. "No, our spies say the same symbol appeared on the ruins of the Shivari, listening. Post last week, a human symbol," scoffed the mechanical voice of the AI representative from the Mecron Collective. "Impossible. Humans have no fleets, no technology." Before the AI could finish, the great doors of the chamber opened. An alien officer stumbled inside, his armor scorched and torn. His voice trembled. "Honored Council, we have intercepted a transmission." "From who?" demanded the Prime Minister. The officer swallowed. "Unknown origin." But the voice was human. The council chamber fell silent. No one moved. "Play it," the Draka general ordered. The officer pressed a device on his wrist. A deep human voice filled the hall. The tone was calm, but each word carried the weight of a storm. "For 50 years, you chained our hands. You broke our homes. You called us weak, but chains rust, and the weak learn to fight. Judgment Day is here." The message ended. In the mining tunnels of Titan, Ilara Voss stood alone in the darkness, staring at a small holographic display on her wrist. Green lights marked dozens of hidden human fleets scattered across asteroid belts, deep space clouds, and forgotten moons. Each light blinked in rhythm. It was the rhythm of a clock, and the time was almost up. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "They think we're still slaves. They have no idea what's coming." Far above Titan, in the black void, ships older than she was, ships stolen, rebuilt, and armed with weapons no alien had ever seen, waited for her command. The galaxy thought humanity's story had ended. 50 years ago, they were wrong. It was only the beginning. The next move would be loud. The next move would be fire. And when it came, the stars themselves would remember the day humanity stopped kneeling. The galaxy was no longer quiet. In the span of 1 week, 6 alien stations had been destroyed, 3 fleets had vanished, and dozens of supply routes had been cut off. None of the alien empires could explain how it was happening, but the Great Galactic Council knew one thing. All the attacks carried the same mark, HR on Titan. Deep in the shadows of the mines, Ilara Voss moved like a ghost. She no longer worked with the other slaves. She had something far more important to do. In a hidden chamber carved into the rock, old human technology hummed softly. Pieces of stolen alien tech were scattered across tables. This was the nerve center of the resistance. On Titan. Around the table stood a small group of humans, miners, engineers, and even children who had grown up in the mines. Each one wore the same look in their eyes, quiet determination. A man named Cade, tall and broad-shouldered, pointed at a glowing map in the air. The sabotage is working. Alien fleets are blaming each other. The Draka think the Macrons are behind it. The Kavari accuse the Zirans. No one suspects the truth. They will, Ilara said. And when they do, they'll send everything. They have to crush us. Cade smiled. Then we better be ready to crush them first. Far from Titan, in the cold emptiness of the Kuiper Belt, a human fleet hid among the ice and rock. These ships were not like alien warships. They were patched together from scrap, stolen hulls, and forgotten freighters. But inside them was something new. Weapons built by human hands using alien designs, improved in ways the original makers never imagined. The humans had learned, they had studied, and now they had surpassed. Meanwhile, the alien empires were in chaos. In the capital system of the Zeran Empire, angry crowds filled the streets. Their leaders had promised safety, but human attacks had destroyed 2 of their food depots. In the Draka strongholds, warriors were demanding immediate war, even without proof of who was responsible. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the 12 leaders argued. "This is your fault," hissed the Kuvari ambassador, his tentacles twitching. "Your fleets were supposed to guard the outer sectors." "Blame your own weakness," growled the Draka general. "We warned you about the humans 50 years ago. We told you they would rise again." "They can't rise," snapped the Zeran prime minister. "They have no fleets, no." An officer rushed in, interrupting him. Another attack, this time on the Mecron shipyards. All 12 stations destroyed in under 10 minutes. The Macron representative's voice glitched with static. "Our defenses were bypassed. That is impossible." "Not impossible," came a new voice from the council's central HOLO screen. It was a woman's face, human, with short black hair and eyes like steel. "Ilara Voss, you remember me?" She said calmly. "No, of course you don't. I was just another slave in your minds, just another number in your records. But I remember all of you." The council froze. "You thought you broke us," Ilara continued. "You thought you erased our spirit, but all you did was teach us your secrets, your ships, your weapons, your weaknesses. And now," she leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper, "now we use them against you." The transmission cut off. Silence filled the chamber. No one spoke. Back on Titan, Cade looked at Ilara. That should get their attention. Elara's gaze moved to the fleet status display. Green lights blinked across the map, hidden bases on moons, asteroid outposts, and ships in deep space. Each one was waiting for her signal. "We're not ready for a full strike," Cade said, "but small, precise attacks. We can bleed them dry before they even know where to strike back." Ilara nodded. "We take their fuel, their food, their communication hubs. We make them afraid to travel, afraid to sleep, afraid of the dark." The first wave of operations began that night. On the edge of Draka space, 2 alien patrol ships spotted what looked like a drifting cargo freighter. When they moved in to investigate, the freighter's hull split open like the jaws of a predator, revealing hidden cannons. In seconds, both patrol ships were gone. In Ziran space, a passenger station was evacuated after a malfunction in the life support systems. The station exploded 2 hours later. No casualties, but the message was clear. Nowhere was safe. The galaxy began to whisper. Some called them ghosts, others called them demons, but those who knew the truth called them something else. Humans, alien. Soldiers who once laughed at the idea of human resistance now checked the shadows before sleeping. Convoys traveled with double escorts. Entire sectors went dark, abandoning outposts to avoid attacks. For the first time in decades, the galaxy felt fear, and that fear had a name in the deepest chamber of the resistance base. Alara stood before a massive black structure covered by a tarp. Only a few of her closest allies had seen it. Cade stepped forward. "It's ready." Elara's eyes burned with a fierce light. Almost she pulled the tarp away. Beneath it was a warship unlike anything in the galaxy, human-built, alien, and armed with weapons no one had ever faced. The name on its hull glowed faintly in the dark. Dawnbringer. "They're going to land," the Zeran Prime Minister shouted. The Macron representative's voice trembled. "If they do, the council is finished." On the Dawnbringer, Cade turned to Elara. "Orders." Elara's gaze was hard as stone. "We make them see what they did to us." The Dawnbringer descended toward the capital. As they entered the atmosphere, the ship's shadow fell over the council's palace, the very building where Earth's enslavement had been signed. Target: the palace. "Low yield," Alara said. A single blast roared from the Dawnbringer's cannon. The palace was torn in half, its upper towers collapsing in a wave of fire and smoke. The comm system came alive. "This is the council," a voice cried. We surrender. We will release all human slaves immediately. Just stop." Elara didn't answer right away. She looked at Cade. "Do they mean it?" Cade nodded slowly. "They're broken. I think they do." Elara leaned closer to the comms. "Free every slave on every world. Not just humans, all species. End your empire of chains. Or we return. And next time, there will be no surrender." The council agreed instantly. Across the galaxy, chains fell, prison gates opened, and thousands of enslaved worlds were freed. On the bridge of the Dawnbringer, the crew watched the news feeds in silence. For some, tears fell. For others, there was only a grim smile. Cade looked at Elara. "It's over." She shook her head. "No, this was only one battle. The galaxy will never forget what we did here, and neither will we." As the Dawnbringer rose back into space, the capital burned behind them. The galaxy's rulers had been humbled, and every star in the sky seemed to whisper the same warning. Never underestimate humanity. The fires of the alien capital still burned. From orbit, the destruction looked like cracks of molten light across the planet's surface. The once palace of the Galactic Council lay in ruins, a broken monument to arrogance. On the Dawnbringer's bridge, silence hung heavy. Every crew member knew the battle was over, but none felt joy. Victory had come at a cost. Years of pain, loss, and struggle. Captain Elara Voss stood at the front window, watching the smoke rise far below. Her voice was low. "They will rebuild, but they will never rebuild their chains. Cade stepped. Beside her, the surrender orders are confirmed. Every slave on every world is being freed. The message is spreading faster than the Council can control it. Elara nodded, but her gaze stayed fixed on the planet. Good, but freedom must be more than words. We'll make sure they keep their promise. Across the galaxy, the news hit. Like a shockwave, on the mining moons of Titan, humans dropped their tools and stepped into the sunlight for the first time. In the fields of Veganine, alien guards threw down their weapons, unsure if the Dawnbringer's shadow would soon pass over them. On distant worlds, entire species who had never dared to hope now stood free. Some cried, some laughed, some simply stared at the open sky. The Galactic Council tried to spin the truth, claiming they had chosen peace to avoid further terrorism. But no one believed them. The images of the Dawnbringer cutting through their fleets were now etched into every mind in the galaxy. Children whispered the name human with awe. Soldiers spoke it with fear. Rulers spoke it with caution. A week later, the Dawnbringer returned to Earth. It was no longer the broken, polluted world the aliens had conquered decades ago. In the shadows of their occupation, humanity had rebuilt. Underground cities had risen, powered by stolen alien tech. Old ruins had been turned into hidden factories. Earth was alive again, stronger than it had ever been. As the dawn descended through the atmosphere, crowds gathered in the rebuilt capital. They cheered as the ship touched down, banners waving, voices shouting the name of their captain. Elara stepped onto the platform, the sun warming her face for the first time in months. Around her were veterans of the resistance, people who had fought, bled, and survived. Cade moved closer. We did it. We gave Earth back its future. Elara looked over the sea of faces. We gave them a chance. The rest is up to them. She knew the galaxy would not stay quiet for long. The Council might be broken now, but other powers would rise. Some would see humanity as a threat. Others would want revenge, but that no longer frightened her. 3 days later, a secret meeting took place in what had once been the United Nations chamber. Representatives from dozens of newly freed worlds gathered there, many meeting humans for the first time. A tall reptilian from the world of Sirith stepped forward. You did not have to free us, he said. You could have taken your revenge and left. Why didn't you? Elara answered simply. Because chains don't just belong to the one wearing them. They belong to the one holding them. If we destroy the chains, we destroy the power they gave. Murmurs filled the room. Some nodded in agreement. Others still didn't trust the humans. But all of them knew one truth. Earth was now a force that could not be ignored. In the months that followed, the resistance transformed into something new. The Alliance of Free Worlds. It wasn't an empire, and it wasn't a council. It was a promise. Each member swore to stand together if tyranny ever returned. At its heart was the Dawnbringer, still captained by Elara Voss. The galaxy changed. Slave markets vanished. Old laws, written to keep lesser species under control, were torn down. And in their place, new trade routes, new alliances, and new friendships were formed. But not everyone welcomed this change. In the dark edges of space, broken warlords, outlaw fleets, and ex-council loyalists gathered. They whispered of a day when they would strike back at Earth. One evening, Cade found Elara alone in the Dawnbringer's observation deck, staring at the stars. They'll come for us again, he said quietly. Elara didn't look away from the view. Let them weave. Faced worse. And next time, they'll remember exactly what happened here. Cade smiled faintly. Judgment Day. Alara finally turned, her eyes as sharp as the day she gave the first order to strike. No, she said. Judgment Day was for them. What comes next is for the galaxy. The Dawnbringer rose once more, engines blazing as it cut through the black. Around it, ships of the new alliance followed, their lights shining like stars in formation. From this day forward, the galaxy would live with a single truth written in fire. The last mistake they ever made was thinking humanity would kneel. Asterisk.